One part of our website which is in need of a bit of love and care is our homepage. Till so far, we've only really concentrated on our individual place pages, but our homepage is actually using a lot of the same concepts there. So rather than writing out all the code from scratch for our homepage, we're going to be transferring over a lot of components and at a very high level, just kind of looking at what they do and understanding the code. So our homepage is made up of a few components. We have our hero, which we have just one of, and we want to show randomly. We've got our sort of intro block here, which is just a piece of text. Then we have 4 links to various different locations, and we need to make sure we're not duplicating what we have in the hero. Then we've got another text block and the footer down the bottom as well. So the footer is something that we have in common with our place pages too. So that's going to go in our footer file. Now, rather than writing out all this code from scratch, we are going to just copy pieces over and start to understand what they do. So at a high level, what we want to achieve is this. We're going to massively slim down our homepage file and organize it into lots of separate component files, like we've been doing with our individual posts. So what we'll start with, and what we already have in place, is this hero. So if you go to your index.php, we include this hero. Now currently what it's doing is it's going through a loop of all of our posts, it's getting the hero, it's getting the content, and it's just looping through. So we can just scroll through and it's just looping through all these posts that we've added so far. But what we want to do is to show just one hero. We want to show a random one each time, and that's all we want to do. So what we'll do is to take all of our code, apart from this content hero, so everything between main and main, we're going to say goodbye to it. And we're going to put ourselves some PHP tags in. And we are firstly going to include our hero. Now this isn't enough on its own. We need to tell it what post it actually needs to look at. So we're going to put a query in there to grab us one post and then show this hero component. So the way that that looks is if you go into the project guide here, we have a query. So similar to what we introduced earlier, this new WP query, we're going to query ourselves for one post and we're going to get a random one each time. So exactly the same as the CoolMap project where we picked out one random item each time. So if we refresh, we get something new each time. We're going to apply the same concept to our own site, to this hero here. So I'm going to grab that code and I'm going to pop it in there and just briefly explain what's going on. So we set up a query inside this query variable, and we're doing it in this format where we just write it as a bit of text in one line, similar to what we did in our CoolMap project. So we're just saying, get us one post, give us a random one each time, and then it runs through the query, and then we are putting out our template component, which is in here. So if we save this, let's see what we get. Cool. So we've saved the page now and we have just one hero showing each time. Now, if you do a few refreshes, we'll get new heroes each time. We've got Bali a couple of times in a row there. Hong Kong again. Mauritius. Mauritius is very strange how I'm getting the same ones in a row. There we go, it's changing up a bit now. Randomness is not always as random as you think with programming languages. However, it's working. So what we need to do next is to include our other components. So we'll start with this block here, and that is going to be called our about component. So just as we've done before, we'll create ourselves a new component. We'll say content about index.php. And in there, we're going to have our about content. We won't worry about it just yet because we're going to be grabbing that from GitHub, putting the code in and just seeing how it looks. So what we'll do after this end if is we're going to include that about section. Now to find the code for it, you can go off to GitHub, and this is just pretty much similar to an editor view. You can explore the files and see how this all put together. And we are looking for the content about.php. Now there's not much going on in there. It's a very slim component, just 3 lines of code. And to get the raw version, you just click raw, or you can copy it directly from here. Doesn't actually make too much difference. So we'll drop in that about component, save that to the page, and let's see what happens. Cool. So we have a bit of text added to our page. However, the styling is a little bit off there. So we need to add some styles just to constrain this width a little bit. So for that, what we're going to do is we have this description class, and in our CSS, right at the bottom, we're going to say description and then max width 860 pixels. So just to narrow it down a little bit for us. Perfect. Next up, what we have is this block of links. Now for this, we are doing something almost identical to what we looked at on our post page at the bottom. Where are we? Here. Same idea applies. We have these boxes which link to individual posts, and we're making sure that we're not repeating the same post that's in the top of the page. So if we go back over, we are going to create ourselves a component called content navigate. So I'm going to copy that one in, and inside index.php, just below content about, we're going to say content navigate. So for that, we'll say content navigate.php. And we can find the code for that. If we go back, and here we have it. We can grab the raw code. I usually find it's a little bit better. Paste that in. So the idea of what we're doing here is very similar. We have our aspect ratio boxes that link to the post. We're setting up a query here, and we're making sure that our hero post is not in that query. So this hero post variable is coming from the index.php, and we're setting it up here. So we talked a bit about the first project, this idea of a global variable. And essentially, we want to be able to access this hero post ID inside of here. So we're just saying post double underscore not in, and then making sure it doesn't show us that hero post. So we can write a comment in there to say cool. So the idea is very, very similar to our explore. We're creating a loop, looping through. We're doing aspect ratio boxes. We've done those once, and we don't want to be writing those out again because they do take a while. But they are one of those things that if you've done once, they're very easy to do again. So with that saved in, we now have this navigate component in. That's saved in. Let's see how our homepage looks now. Okie doke, so that's looking okay. But one change we could perhaps make there is to say aspect ratio, and then we're going to do 16:9 when the screen is not small. Cool. So you can see these aspect ratios we can also apply at responsive widths. So by default, when we're on a smaller screen, much smaller, we get these 1x1 boxes, and as we grow, we get these 16x9 boxes. Now, something I'm going to leave as a homework challenge for you that's actually very challenging and will be a good one is to try and achieve this layout. So where we have 1/3 width and 2/3 widths alternating between these 4 posts. So kind of going back to the idea of the cool map project, where we had the index number for each post, trying to work out which one in the sequence we're at, and maybe applying a different class based on that. So what else do we have on our homepage? We have the bio. So we're going to add ourselves the final component for our bio. So go to index.php, and just in the bottom here, we're going to say content bio. Now we need to create this file. So we're going to say content-bio.php. And what's going to go in there? We are going to find our bio. So with this, we have a div which has a wide measure on it. We're centering it in the middle using the 4th font size in the type scale. Horizontal padding of 3 on default screens, so on the smaller screens, making that padding 4 on larger screens, padding on the top, padding on the bottom, and just generally sort of scaling up the padding and sizing of things as the screen gets larger. Then with the title, we're making it our Archivo bold, font size of 3, making it a bit larger on larger screens, removing the margin on top and adding 3 units of margin on the bottom. So a lot of this is just using the system, using the units of measurement we have, and we've got lots of consistency in the way things are spaced between each other. So I'm just going to put a bit of space in there just to make that clearer. And if we refresh the page, we have our block. Perfect. So what we're going to do in our next video is to deal with the footer. We'll do a similar approach for that because the footer structure is quite straightforward. It's more just HTML and a little bit of CSS structure.